Hey, senior has come. Once you have come, you know you were waiting for you. Oh. We agree on what I told you. So this is the agree on the show. Yeah, that's good. Oh, you are the senior most too. You are the senior guy. I didn't touch anything. No, it's because I'm not sharing. That's why it's like that. When I start sharing everything, the PowerPoint will be shared when you are ready. Bring it to me. Yeah. Or yes. Do that. When I put there, you are talking. You share it to this. When we stand here, please. After that, we come and say, "Fine." What are you there? Because in here, I am my content, so do my own. Very soon now, too. I'm training my ego to take over.
Oh yeah, that's. You see, I'm trying to find another person. A lot of time.
Hey, which other person can you find?
Whether preaching, going into music, or whatever.
Going to football.
No, I'm going to music. I'm going to music.
That's the age of football.
I need to play quiz. I don't think I can handle it.
Yeah.
Come on, check. You see yourself and no, don't deceive yourself. You missed it.
It's a long time I've been just listening. Hope they are here. Hey. These are the same things. Yeah, that's the easy. But you say it, don't you say it? Uh-huh. So why don't you just say said? That's the shorter version. Why is that one? Me, I'm only a co-op member of your committee. And I am here before all of you. Maximum 2 hours. Yeah. I hope we don't go to the mountain. Today's holiday. I'm not going to disturb
Myself, programs I've lined myself up with.
Yes. No. You can hear. My mic is not on, and I've not joined with audio either. No, they are all off. So it's speaking from somewhere there. Right. Oh, you present someone. Very helpful.
By the question, I think some of them are English, and some of the English questions. Not very lot.
I'm directly everybody is tech. Everybody is tech savvy. You direct the questions to me. Why should you direct it to me? If you direct to me, no. Any question direct to nobody answers.
What question is more direct?
It's some blockchain, machine learning, artificial intelligence question.
Charlie, you will do those. Some of the answers you will get, you will not like them.
Everything is coming. It's also off. So it's coming from your computer. So whichever mic is on. Uh-huh. So check the other hand. Yeah. And then he will start it.
What's it then? You discuss what? You discuss what?
No, the doc will do the error. But if it's,
Okay.
I was thinking you might push it through.
Yeah, but timing is
So that you
important
get
so that
to
we can
those-
get out of here faster. Yeah, put some programs.
If people are interested.
Hold on, back here, say we on time. Yeah,
This one's not. Yeah, I thought you were. I'm talking about if you're more interested in this and never help. Maybe, I don't know. And sometimes, our slice will break the mold.
what is that?
And because if you put, like, depend on people's interests. If they're interested in being a family, they may not pay attention to the help. But this one, you get
Oh no, I didn't say not, but then we have to be on time so that we can at least. Well, we have also programmed ourselves. So, oh, maybe do have this time, maybe do have this time. So can you imagine? Can you imagine? Who knew now? Who knew now you're late? You ever catch yourself near me home?
The invoice is already with me.
Oh, you name it home. You take something more important than me. Those things. So let's just do something cool. Frankly, I didn't think of a presentation.
No, he has done it. No, you have all done it.
Charlie, I don't think.
Give the 10 minutes.
Yeah, for me, I don't think so. I need more than 10 minutes.
No slides.
Oh, a picture.
Need to beat us.
A pictures we'll talk to. That is all we are going to do.
I've made this start of it. Yes.
Check if I do wherever they are. At least let's see whether you can have it. Whatever form you want to.
Voice of pattern. You can say it.
You don't necessarily have to stand to present.
Or you want to sit there.
Oh, for me, because, I don't know. It depends. I ask myself, but it depends on what configurations you have into an open or
The laptop.
yeah. Yeah. So okay, no problem, no problem. So we will have a definitely will be a video feed from on us and then the okay.
Hello, try two, try two. Hello. Nothing.
We can't hear anything online at all.
You still can't hear? Hello? 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 1, 2, can you hear?
Yeah, it's better, but like from far away, it's better.
Can you hear from there? You can't hear him.
I can't hear anything, sir.
Hello, can you hear from here?
Yeah,
Yours is clear, right? The other
Yeah,
side is
Mike-
more of an echo.
Yeah, Michael, we could hear you.
Hello? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, Lieutenant, can you hear?
Still far away. When you were talking from your end, we could hear, but we still can't hear too clearly.
Oh. Is it better?
Not very better. Keep trying.
That will be very simple. Hello? It's not on. Hello? Check. Hello? Can you hear?
Shama Hackman, yours is very faint.
Mine is too faint, right? Yes, lady, can you hear us? Hello?
Yes, Mike, yours is okay, but Mike is far away from you.
Connection.
Hello? 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 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello? Hello? 1, 2. Can you hear? Sound good. Sound good. The sound is good. Yes.
What?
Hello?
Ask the weather to find you.
English book here.
Yeah, I think Shama Hackman's mic is better now. No, it's gone again.
Are you okay?
Hello?
Yep.
So let me bring this. Hello? Can you hear?
Yeah, we can hear now.
I think this one is better.
Oh.
That's good. Thank you so much. Forgive us for the garbage. And also forgive me for, they shouldn't do that. Forgive me. So today is Friday, it's a holiday. And I find myself here, so forgive me. For once, I need to cover my shining products. I used to be shining products, so I just So, our colleagues, the anthem was played earlier. I know that we are going to play the anthem. Hello. Yeah, so the anthem will so for now, I've played another for us to have an open career, which I'm going to do myself. And then, after the opening prayer, we are lucky to have in our list Dr. Alex Jam, who is a medical practitioner and very experienced to have with identified community hospital. We were doing this in some health. Then after, I will hand over to my brother surveyor and what the moderate the rest of the team. So without much ado, let us go. Father, in the name of God, we thank you for this opportunity to gather here. We are grateful that you have made it possible for all of us, for those who are here, from your ladies to your learning. We pray that you give us listening here, and we pray that you give us understanding and everything to for this program. We are grateful that all the way we did not be apart from giving you where glory and labor in this world. Thank you, in the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
So, Dr. Alex Jam, if you are online, yes, you have the floor. This land survey issue of the land, Ghana Institution of Survey, the map, and we are grateful that we have accepted to do this. So you carry on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hackman. I'm very honored to have a presentation on the topic healthy habits with you and your esteemed group, Land Surveying Division of Ghana Institution of Surveyors. I would like to share my screen for the presentation. Okay, can you see my screen, please?
No.
Yes, go ahead. It's good.
Okay. So, without much ado, I would start with the presentation. The topic is healthy habits. And I'll start with definition. It's not showing. Okay, 1 second, please. So,
It's a good.
is it showing now?
Oh.
1 second. I'm sure it's showing now. Okay.
But to start the PowerPoint.
Are we okay? Can I continue?
Yes, yes.
All right. So the title of our presentation is Healthy Habits. What is a habit? It is a routine behavior that is repeated regularly and tends to even occur subconsciously. So when we develop a habit, we don't even think about it. We don't need to put in too much energy before we have the urge to execute it. It just happens naturally. There are a number of healthy habits that we are supposed to develop, especially as adults. Earlier on in life, when we were adolescents and younger, our body system was different. We could eat in the night, we could eat all the junk food, all the carbohydrates, and our system was so efficient that these would be metabolized well and we wouldn't have any untoward health effects. But from age 30, 35, 40 is individual based, our body systems change. Now there is a reduction in our basic or basal metabolism. Now our organs are aging, 50 years, and there are a lot of precautions we have to take. Now, we need to exercise. We need to eat healthy diet. We need to drink enough water. We need to reduce alcohol intake. And I'm going to stress on this one. We need to reduce alcohol intake. Those smoking must quit smoking. We have to develop stress avoidance or management strategies. We need to sleep adequately, and we need to follow medical advice. Example, we need to take our medication regularly. So I'll start with exercise. Exercise is very important, and the importance cannot be overemphasized. For example, exercise helps us battle or slow down chronic medical conditions. Exercise helps us manage our weight. Exercise is like an energy booster. You exercise, you go to work, and you are full of energy. Exercise leads to production of important chemicals in our brains that gives us or puts us into a very good mood. We are able to relate with our friends and colleagues and even our family in a nicer way. Exercise is so important that we need to pay a lot of attention, especially at our age group. Now, WHO recommends that for adults 18 to 64 years, we are supposed to exercise at least 150 to 300 minutes per week. So with this, let's use the minimum of 150 minutes. If you want to exercise like 5 times a week, if you divide 150 by 5, you have 30. It means at least 30 minutes a day for 5 days in a week. We need to exercise. That is at least. This exercise, we've classified this as moderate intensity. So when we say moderate intensity, we are talking about walking, like brisk walking, or slow jogging, or skipping, or being on the treadmill, you know. These help boost what we call the cardiopulmonary activity. That is, we work out our heart and our lungs, which are very, very important. For those who can do vigorous intensity aerobic exercise, for example, playing some amount of soccer, it means that you may have to, you don't need to go like 300 minutes per week. Because it's vigorous, you could do even 75 minutes per week. All right, so when we say 75 minutes per week, assuming we are going to do vigorous intensity exercise like 2 days in a week, if we divide 75 by 2, you get about 37 minutes. So you can go and play your soccer for 37 minutes, 2 days in a week. If you want to do 3 days, you divide 75 by 3, and that will give you about 25 minutes. So you look at yourself and figure out which of these types of exercises would fit you and your routines, and you execute it. Apart from aerobics, that is the things that help build up the health of your heart and lungs, we also have what we call muscle strengthening activities. So when we say muscle strengthening activities, I'm not saying you should go to the gym and lift all the heavy metals. You're not building your muscles per se, but you are keeping the tone of your muscles and the bulk of your muscles, right? It could be some press-ups. If you go to the gym, we have different activities that we will classify as muscle strengthening activities. So I would encourage each and every one of us to really figure out the exercises that they want to do for both aerobics and muscle strengthening exercises. Well, ideally, if you register with a gym, is good, but in the absence of gym, you can self-exercise, skipping, etc. We should limit the amount of time spent being sedentary. If you are not careful in Ghana, you end up not exercising because you have to wake up at dawn to beat traffic. You get to office, you are so busy behind your desk. By the time you are aware it's 5 p.m., you get up from your desk, you jump into your vehicle. By the time you get home, it's late. You eat, you watch TV, you start snoring in your chair, in your hall. You just get up and go to bed. And the routine continues. This is a typical sedentary lifestyle, and it doesn't augur well for our health, especially the health of our heart and the cardiovascular system. So let's make a deliberate effort at exercising, because exercising, as I've mentioned, the importance cannot be overemphasized. And I've already enumerated some of the importance. I move on to healthy eating. When we talk about healthy eating, it's not just about eating a balanced diet, because we don't want to avoid at early ages, like we're talking about kwashiorkor, malnutrition, etc. Now we've passed that stage. We are also talking about helping to protect us from other non-communicable diseases, such as diabetes, that is impaired control of glucose in the system, heart disease. When we talk about heart disease, we are talking about clogging of the blood vessels that supply the heart itself, or the heart muscles. The heart is like a pump. Oxygenated blood gets in. The pump will pump the blood to all parts of the body. It receives the oxygenated blood and pumps it to the lungs. When the muscles get weak, the heart cannot perform its vital function as a pump. And the effects are myriad, of course, leading to even death. Some of the complications are stroke. We also have what sometimes we hear, oh, we heard the person had a heart attack, all right? He passed on. We have what we call angina, severe pain from the heart that we feel on our chest wall. Now, when we talk about healthy diets, basically, let's think about fruits and vegetables and legumes such as beans, nuts, whole grains. We have to stay away from a lot of sugar at this age, a lot of sugar, a lot of salt. We have to stay away from unhealthy fats. When I talk about unhealthy fats, we have what we call saturated fats and unsaturated fats. Unsaturated fats are the healthy fats, and they are found in fish, avocado and nuts, sunflower, soybean, canola, olive oils. And these are healthy fats. The unhealthy fats, we call them saturated fats. They are found in fatty parts of meat, right? Butter, palm, coconut oil, cheese, etc. Please, let me clarify by saying that I'm not saying palm oil or coconut oil are not good. I'm not saying you cannot consume them, but they should be in moderation because they also have a lot of good aspects. All I'm saying is that if you take too much of these, you are consuming a lot of saturated fats and they are not good for your system. We also want to stay away from what we call trans fats, and these are found in meat and dairy food from sheep, cows, goats, etc. So from what I've just said, the summary is that let's take more fats from avocado, nuts, and the rest, and then let's really cut down on fats from animals. For example, if you want to take meat from animals, then you have to make sure the meat is treated in such a way that we extract a lot of oil out of it. Whether we're going to put it on the grill so that we pull out a lot of oil, or we just take lean meat. Then on diet, again, I've already mentioned that we have to reduce our salt intake. When we take in a lot of salt, now salt contains sodium chloride. Sodium stays in the system and it may increase our blood pressure. Let's take note. I'm not saying that we should not take salt at all, but it should be reduced to the barest minimum. We all know that drinking water is important. An average, according to WHO recommendation, if we take 3.7 liters of water a day is good. But having said that, let me clarify this by saying that it depends on the individual and where you find yourself, the kind of work you do. But then you have to listen to your system. When you use the washroom and your pee is yellow, it means you are dehydrated. You don't have enough water in your system. You have to drink water so that when you are peeing, it's colorless or very light yellow. I move on to a very important aspect, reducing alcohol intake. Medically, we are not supposed to consume more than 14 units of alcohol per week. Mind you, this is medical consideration. In the advanced countries, UK, US, Australia, they have their own legal limits for weekly alcohol consumption. But from pure medical point of view, 14 units of alcohol should not be exceeded. So the question is, what is a unit of alcohol? We'll get there. If you watch this slide, it tries clarifying how 14 units of alcohol should look like. If you look at the first row here, is spirits. So 14 units of alcohol per week means that you can only take maximum a shot of spirit, one shot per day for each day for the 14 days. We are not saying you have to force yourself and take this. This is the maximum you can take. And we don't even recommend that you take the maximum. So once in a while, you can take a shot of spirit, but you shouldn't exceed what you are seeing here, one shot per day for 14 days. And we also say that you are not supposed to take alcohol every day of the week. There should be intervals between so that your liver can rest and regenerate. When you take wine, 14 units of wine per week is like taking a 175 ml glass of wine a day for 6 days, not 7 days. And the same applies to beer. When you take beer, you can take 6 pints of beer. That's 4%. But in Ghana, we usually don't have 4%. Ours is about 6.5. So it means in Ghana, it means you can take a maximum of 4 to 5 pints of 6.5% beer per week. So if one consumes 1 pint of beer today, tomorrow there should be a holiday for the liver to rest. The next day, if the person wants to, it's okay. I'm reminding you again that these are the maximum you can consume. And we are not saying you have to consume maximum. If you can just take only 2 per week, it's better than to take all these 6 per week. Now, how did we arrive at this calculation? It's very easy. For you to calculate 1 unit of alcohol, you multiply the strength of the drink by the volume in milliliters and you divide by 1,000. So for example, if you take a pint of beer measuring 568 ml and the strength being 5.2%, the unit therein is calculated as 5.2 times 568, that's the volume, divided by 1,000, and you arrive at 2.95 units. So you can take any drink once you know the concentration on it. But if it's 40%, let's say 40%, right? 40% is usually a spirit. So 40%, and let me go to the next slide. Okay. Yeah, exactly here. Single small shot of spirit. You fetch 25 milliliters and the strength is 40. So you multiply 25 ml by 40 and you divide by 1,000, you get 1 unit. This explains why on this slide, we said 1 unit, so you can take 14 shots, which means 1 shot per day for 14 days. 1 shot, hold on, 14 units. So it means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So per day, you can take 2 shots. That's the maximum. All right. I hope I've not confused anyone here. The reason why we are stressing on alcohol intake is that too much of alcohol has a lot of untoward effects, right from the mouth through the esophagus to the stomach to all the intestines, the liver, the effect on the heart, effect on the brain. Alcohol has an effect on all systems of the body. These are the medical effects, apart from the social effects. All right. If you want to cut down, you have to try to take, you have to have several drink-free days each week. As I said, you don't need to drink alcohol every day of the week. There should be times that the liver has to rest. 14 units is equivalent to 6 pints of average strength beer or 10 small glasses of lower strength wine. Having talked about alcohol, we move on to developing stress avoidance strategies. There is something called work-life balance, and it's very important. We should be able to, separate work from family and from leisure activities. They are all important. A good balance helps to reduce stress among working populace. We should make time to engage in activities that we enjoy, such as sport, music, visiting friends and family. Reduce stress helps prevent or reduce severity of chronic diseases such as hypertension, diabetes, obesity, etc. We should develop positive relationships with workplace colleagues. And we have to bear in mind that we have different temperaments. We are all not the same. Somebody is a quiet type. Somebody else is a very outgoing type. We must be prepared to accommodate the different personalities, temperaments at the workplace. Can you imagine, assuming we all had the same personality, how boring it would be. The fact that somebody is not outgoing and therefore does not really engage you in conversation does not mean the person has an issue with you. So let's be aware and conscious of these so that we can relate nicely with all our colleagues at work. I move on to smoking. When we were talking about alcohol, I said we should cut down on alcohol. But when it comes to smoking tobacco, we say quit smoking. We don't say cut down on smoking. Because tobacco causes cancer, heart disease, stroke, lung disease, diabetes, some lung diseases, other lung diseases called chronic pulmonary obstructive disease, etc. And the severity thereof is so high that we don't recommend that people should reduce, because even a stick of cigarette can still have all these effects. People who smoke and desire to quit must consult a doctor to assist them with strategies that would help them quit. Let's remember that secondhand smoke is equally harmful. So we should be proactive when we go to a public place and people are smoking indiscriminately. We should voice out that they should look for a designated smoking area and do their thing. Because if you don't talk about it, it's still affecting you via the secondhand smoke. I move on to regular medical checks. We don't have to wait till we are sick before we go to the hospital. Regular health checks is very important because it reduces our risk of getting sick. Potentially life-threatening health conditions or diseases are detected early, at which point they could be nipped in the bud before complications set in. When complications set in, it's more difficult to treat. And some of the complications, we term them as terminal. It means we cannot treat and it's the end of life. We are just going to do what we call palliative care and wait for God to call the person. Now, in Ghana, most people only go to the hospital when they are not feeling well. But it looks like the trend has begun changing. Now we understand that we need to go for medical checkups, especially based on the kind of workplace we find ourselves. Our employers will force us to go, whether we like it or not. And even before we are employed, there's something called pre-employment medicals. These are very important. But in the absence of our employers or our organizations or workplaces forcing us to go to hospital, we as individuals must take it upon ourselves to do so because of the importance that I've already espoused here. When you go to the hospital, things that could be life-threatening are seen early, and at that point, it's so easy to treat compared to when we detect them at a later stage. So that is regular medical checks for you. Let's remember that real change happens when we take action in a new way so many times that it becomes us. It becomes a habit. I want to make a few statements here. These are cliches, but they help. Raindrops may be tiny in shape and size, but their continuous fall makes the river overflow. Always remember, small and consistent efforts make massive changes in life. Running 1 mile per day is 365 miles per year. Becoming 1% better per day is 37 times better per year. Small habits are usually underestimated, but consistency is more important than intensity. So don't say that, oh, I don't have the strength to exercise. Even if you want to start with a 10-minute walk, start. As you do this day on day, right? Your stamina increases. You realize eventually that you start doing 30 minutes, 40 minutes, all right? It's not the intensity, but the consistency. I pray that you would be victorious in developing lifelong habits that promote good health and help you overcome habits that harm your health. May the godly virtues of self-control and discipline keep you on the right track. Thank you very much. At this point, I would pause for questions and comments that would help me clarify things that probably I didn't talk about or I didn't expatiate enough. Thank you.
Yes, I think that for the technical questions, now that we are behind time, I will. We only have about 10 minutes for questions, but before the questions start, I heard you say that for our age, you mentioned our age. Fortunately, or unfortunately, there is a group of diverse age groups ranging from 20 to some between 90s. Can you stop sharing that?
Okay, so.
Yes. So it's a wide range of age. So if you say our age, I don't know what your age is. From there, some other questions. Maybe you have to hold on. So you have all questions for your answer. Colleagues, may your questions come in. There's another person who is asking for the slides. It seems that the slides are this for us to do the I hope that you meet the full sort of the for us to share. Any other question? If you have a question, may you please speak up your hand. All right, Doc, they take these two questions or these two concerns.
Okay. Okay. So when I talk about our age, I'm assuming we are all adults seated here. But this presentation is specifically for people 30 years and above. Initially, we would have said 40 years and above, 40, 50, 60. But looking at current trends, now we have people developing hypertension, diabetes, other chronic conditions at an earlier age. So I would say this presentation holds for people who are 30 years and above. Second point, availability of the presentation. Yes, I'll share with Mr. Hackman, and he can share with anybody else who is interested. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we have Mohammed, your hand is up. Say, ask a question. Please unmute and ask a question. We have Mohammed.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go on.
I wanted to know from which age should one start reducing maybe the sugar or the intake of the alcohol?
Okay, thank you very much. So we are Vice President Isaac Babi.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all. Please, can you hear me clear?
Yes, we can hear you well.
All right. Doc, thank you very much for your presentation. In fact, I have one critical question to ask. And if you look at all the health habits you made mention of, all of them are linked to the body. Now, I want to find out, What about sex? There have been so much talks about sex. Some say if you don't have sex, it's not good. Some say you should have it about twice a week. Some say once a week. I mean, there are so many versions about it, and each one also boils down to the body. So, what role, as part of our healthy habits, what role does sex play? Thank you very much.
Now, please answer this too.
Thanks very okay. Thank you very much for your questions. So the first one, which age should one start reducing intake of sugar and alcohol? In fact, we are talking about healthy habits. If you develop a bad habit earlier in life, it's very difficult to change. Though you have no choice than to change because it will affect your health. So we will not say that we can consume a lot of alcohol or a lot of sugar in our 20s or early 30s. Then as we cross mid-30s, we start changing to moderate to mild. It is better that we develop the habit right from the beginning. In fact, we are not supposed to drink. It's not like you need to drink alcohol for some health benefit. But in case one cannot avoid taking alcohol, then it must be in moderation right from the word go, when the person starts. All right. But then it becomes critical that it's reduced drastically from age 35 onwards. Even having said that, this is an average I'm giving you. For one individual, the person, based on his underlying medical condition, may have to reduce taking alcohol even before 30. In summary, what I'm saying is that don't start drinking heavily and then you wait till you're 35 or 40 before you start reducing it. Right from the word go, everything should be in moderation. And the same applies to sugar. Right from the word go, it should be very moderate so that when you, in your latter years, assuming one develops diabetes and doctor says, don't take sugar again, it doesn't become a problem. Okay, I hope I've answered the question. The next one is about sex. We don't have any research that says that an individual has to have sex maybe once a week or twice a week. Sex is good because it's one of the ways that people derive pleasure. Having said that, medically, if one doesn't have sex, it doesn't affect the person in any way. But we are different individuals. The same way that some people prefer a certain type of food more than others. Some people prefer or like sex more than other people. So for those people, then they have to check themselves and look, you can have sex every day of the week. That is if your capacity can. So it's individual based, right? For somebody else, having sex once a week or once a month is enough. So you have to check yourself and see, listen to your body. But then medically, if you don't have sex, you're not going to have any health condition. Or if you have too much sex, you are not going to have any health condition. But you have to check yourself so that you don't overexert yourself. Thank you very much. I hope I've answered the question.
Perfectly.
Thank you.
Chairman, now, please ask a question or your comment.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So, Doc, I want to know whether when you get older, you need to sleep more or it's the other way around. So, if like after 30, you need to sleep 8 hours, after 40, you need to sleep like 10 hours, and so on and so forth, because I've heard it's the other way around. Like when you're getting older, you don't need much sleep. So, which is which? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. Naturally, children sleep more than older people. We have what we call the circadian rhythm. And it is such that it leads to production of a certain chemical called melatonin in the system. So children would have more melatonin that will let them sleep for longer duration compared to adults. As we age, our melatonin production reduces. Having said that, sleep is very important because it is the time that the body repairs worn out tissues, we reduce stress, etc. So we should all make efforts from age 30. In fact, at least 6 hours a night. Sleep is good. Other people will say 8 hours. So let me say 6 to 8 hours a night from 30 onwards. Whether you are 50 or 60, you still need that duration of sleep. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Dr. Peter Lamafard, I think that Vice President Lavi asked your question. I see your question here about the same thing. But it's about 4 years now. I think Jan started around Friday. And so I think that it's time for us to talk about that. And so if you still have some questions to ask, you can send it to me or put it on the platform. I will forward it to you for you to answer the all of us. So at this point, I will hand over the podium to brother what starts the other session. Thank you very much for your time. We'll talk on the other side.
You will very much.
Session, we are going to have a panel discussion on the theme, shape of institution, the role of technology in driving progress. And to do that with me, I have Geospatial Engineer Severe Michael Noagbe, who's GIS and Hydraulic Network Manager at Ghana Water Company Limited. I also have Surveyor Urenchi, he's HPD Land and Hydro Service Department of Ghana Harbour Authority. And on my very left is Surveyor Kingdom Gali, engineer at Gridco Company. What we do is that we have a 10 minutes for each person to give us some presentation on and then we will start the discussion. So I think we'll start with Surveyor Urenchi. Gentlemen, you are welcome.
Very good. So on our topic, shaping the future of learning, the role of technology in driving progress. I want to go through what we actually do at the course, and then as we go along, we identify the technologies that we use, and at the end of the day, we may be teased into talking about the role of technologies in our process. So, without much ado, I would like to start with the department. Okay, so the department is the hydrographic and land survey because we also do land survey at the Ghana Coast and Alberta Survey. Good. Our main focus is on safety of navigation. The highway department focuses on safety of navigation at the coast. You all agree with me that 70% of trade worldwide is by sea. So we are talking about the sea. The safety becomes a very important thing. Now we ask ourselves, how do these vessels come inside the port? How do they navigate safely? And what happens if there are accidents involved? So our focus here is on safety of navigation. Now, the department, as I mentioned, is a highway and land survey department. It's an arm of the engineering department of the state. We are responsible for hydrographic surveys, which will, under some circumstances, will cover surveys, land and engineering surveys, and we have some PIS companies on our way. We offer support services mainly for maintenance and capital regulation. Here we talk about from taking of volumes, ensuring that the depth that we achieve, depth that we have actually planned to achieve in dredging. We have routine monitoring of the sea floor. We are talking about the fact that anything can happen on the sea floor, and we need to monitor so that we don't have accidents on the port. If you have accidents, what do they mean? They mean the confidence in the port actually goes down. We're talking about insurance for the vessels, and it means so much to the port. So our operations have to make sure that we monitor the sea floor frequently, making sure the channels to the port are safe and the berths are also safe. If we talk of berths are the places where the vessels come to, just like a car park. We also liaise with third parties, both local and international, on matters of hydrography on behalf of the port. We advise the harbor master and deputy management of issues pertaining to hydrography in the port. I want to talk briefly about engineering survey. For most of us, we are surveyors already. We have at least had some introduction to hydrographic survey. Magnetic survey actually is the mapping of the seabed, and there are so many. All the time I tell people, the sea is just like a flooded land, and land is regarded as the right. So whatever we do on land can equally be done on the sea, and whatever we do on the sea can be replicated on the land. So we want to talk about magnetic survey. It is just mapping the bottom of the seabed, knowing exactly what is where, the nature of the seabed, what is safe and not safe, whether you want to remove what is there or you just mark it and make sure you avoid it where possible. The basic principles I believe we are all familiar with as well. It's about sounding or having the depth measurement and then being able to position the depth in a way that everybody will appreciate that at this particular location, this is the depth. Put together, we are having a chat, just like we have a publish. So it's an issue of measuring distance from the surface of the sea to the bottom, and then with our computation of distance from the velocity of sound and the time it takes to come back to the vessel or the platform from where the sound was released, we're able to get a depth. In fact, this diagram shows exactly what happened. Once again, we'll talk about the different ways of doing this. We look at this thing from the point that this is not a normal surface like we have on Earth. We are looking at you doing survey on the sea, and you have your vessel rolling, you have pitch, you have your, and so how do you go by doing something like the same is equal to the water. Another thing we consider is the sound velocity. We know sound velocity changes with depth, and so we need to profile the sound velocity as the depth increases. Every depth has a different sound velocity. So if you have a depth of say 10 meters, what is the sound velocity at that point? 5 meters, what is the sound velocity? So we need a profile for which we will multiply by the time to get a depth at that particular. Another thing we consider most of the time is the tide. We are aware the level of water increases with time. So whilst we were surveying, what was the level of the water? And at what time did you have the 10 meter you were talking about? What was the level of the water when you had 10 meters? So all those things are considered when you are surveying. So when we put everything together, you are able to have the actual depth, having considered the tide, the road, the pitch, the sound velocity. I want to talk about the different means of doing the survey. We are talking about single beam and multi beam. I think we are more familiar with single beam. And I must say from here that before even the single beam came around, the means of surveying was actually a lead line. You use a lead line in the position, you're able to get a depth. Then you find your own means of getting the position. So with your position and the depth, you're able to plot the thing. Now we move on to multi-beam, which is just like multiples of the single beam. Here we have what the footprint of a single beam looks like. There's that small one, and a multi-beam is multiples of that single beam. So it depends. Once we have this footprint for single beam lines, the multi-beam does a whole coverage like this, and the difference most of the time is like a single broom, and you have a broom together. I mean a single stick, the broom, and then we have the broom together. The means of doing this is the multi-beam ecosystem, and we have a single beam ecosystem here. Now, like I mentioned, it's positioning and depth. So all we are trying to do is to position the depth measurement graph. At the port, we use this is the vessel we use for operation most of the time. And our echo sounder is actually side mounted. Because for now, we share the boat with the pilots and for other uses. So whenever we are going on operation, yes, we'll mount it here. We are talking about the means of positioning our sounding. Here we are having a base station that we are having a base station from where we transmit our correction to the GPS on board. Or we have N-trip as an augmentation that we use for correcting our position. But there are times that we even using standalone as in GPS standalone. It depends on what you are doing. At times you just need a raw position. You have a container full in water, and you have a rough idea where it fell. You just need to pick a point from where you do your seed. So at times you just need a standalone position. You don't always need to have out. So these are the equipment that we need to ensure. Now, let's go into multi-beam. I believe most of us know how the multi-beam works. If you get a sweeping of the sea floor, you have your guided lines I remember ranging. If we say ranging, this is similar to ranging. This is a line. Now, by the use of software, you can create lines on the sea. So these are your lines, and your wish is to navigate straight along this line. Nobody is calling for straight navigation, but it gives you an idea of what coverage you have. So we can liken this thing to a drone. The whole equation looks like a drone. This is a drone on top of water. Simply put that way. So all the actions you think about for the drone are also done here. To the extent that the coverage that we have, as in the swap, is a factor of how high you are, or in this case, I would say the depth of water. Having said that, I mentioned about the tidal gauge, the tide. and we measure with the tidal gauge. So at the port, we now have two tidal gauges. It came to replace the old one we have at Tapale and Demon. And they are operational now, apart from the fact that quite recently we had a problem with the people who are managing it, that they are holding us to ransom for payment or something. But they are until last week they were cancelled. And they are located at the position in Denmark for the This is the website from where you can get the live streaming of the tidal wave. So as we survey, you have your live feed from the tidal wave, which gives you a good idea of the depth of water that is available. I did mention about the fact that we have our purple standard mounted on the side, and these are various configurations you can think about. In actual fact, most of these surveys are with a whole mounted purple standard, and we don't need collision on the side, but our situation is just that we are using the way to other operations to we need to do this. We are in the process of getting our own brochure. So soon, when we have our brochure and we are going to class, the purple standard will face at the bottom. We have everything in there, so we just go in and just press over. Now, having gotten all your data, you talk about processing all the data. That's where you come about the fact that there could be anything between the surface of the water and the bottom has to do that. So because of processing that data, so that you get the first out of the whatever you have gathered. So here is the situation where in our process we identify something and we come to realize that it is a vessel that is under the water, but let's call it a red for now. So some of these images will tell you the process that all is not well, and you need to really check it again and have to do that rest into the water. Now, what are the products that we get from your survey? You have a chart, which is just like the topo sheet with the depth of water. We can have this thing having an image of the keyword and show you whatever is under the water. This one helps you to know what vessels can be allowed into this area, or if you are trying to dredge, to in fact intend to dredge, you want to take them off to have the depth. I mean, the department also does the whole of it. If I land surveying, we do everything land surveying. I just don't want to talk about it because we all know about land surveying. So we also produce mosaics, but we have our layout for the court produced by the department. And we also do cadastral work. So this is one of the products that we have, and it's a channel of the data report. This is how the government has work. And the channel we are creating now. So we put voice in here to demarcate the channel. Any deviation from the channel, maybe a disaster. So we actually put voice here to direct vessels to enter. Every place of the port are dependent, and this one is the colored one that we need to show the dependent. Now, having said that, the channel must be marked. And so these are some of this is the boy that we use to mark the channel. Make sure that we have safety of navigation, especially along this path. But this is the process of putting the voice in. Yeah. Good. So I want to talk about technology. So having said all that, and we knowing where we have come from, we see the women, the deadlines. So we talk about what technology has come to rescue our homes. And we have high resolution maximum surveys for multi-beam that help us to be more productive in the course, have faster turnaround time. We can integrate with digital platforms talking about the MSDI, that is Marine Special Infrastructure, we can manage the assets with much preparedness, and we can manage the risk involved. Having said that, I want to come to this conclusion, and from all that we have said, the hydrographic technologies are now transforming port into data driven, safe and more efficient operational environment. They are no longer just for chatting, but we have become essentially, so we have become assets in port development of people, optimization and risk management. I think this is where I will end with you. If you have any questions, and the question is that we'll be able to elaborate more on what we do. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So now, similar.
Thank you very much for the work. So I want to give an overview of Ghana Water Limited, what happens there in relation to technology, and then the spatial and hydraulic network. So the presentation will first look at the general overview of Ghana Water, then we'll zoom into my department, the Technology Innovation Department. Then we come to my unit, that's the GIS and hydraulic network modeling. And then you then move to what specifically we do that relates to technology, the geospatial, and then the hydraulic network modeling. So the Ghana Water Company Limited, as you can see on the screen, we have the board of directors, the managing director, and then we, the Technology and Innovation Department, go through the general manager of operations. The others, you can see them there. But then the company, knowing more about the company, our vision is to be a world-class utility with a mission to be committed to meeting the increasing demand for better service delivery through efficient management of our core business of water production, distribution, and customer management. We want to bring this up so that you see how we play our role across all of these to make us meet or move us towards meeting the vision of the company. The company has 90 urban water plants, that's currently 23 groundwater systems, and then there's still one conventional systems as well. We have 16 departments, 15 operational regions, 103 operational districts, and 3 specialized units. 2 subsidiaries, we have 5,900 staffs over that, and then our connections are over 1 million. We produce 320 million cubic meters of water per year, and our water infrastructure, that's the pipe network, is currently above 13,500 kilometers. And annually, we add about 200 kilometers of pipes as well. I work gradually as a company in abstract water from the various sources I mentioned earlier. We then treat these, we transmit all of the treated water and then push them into the distribution network so that we can then supply it to our customers. When the customers get it, then we need to bill them, get the revenue from them so that we can go back through the same cycle once again. I told you about the company. Now let's move to my department. That's the Technology Innovation Department. So our mission as the department there is to be the technological wheel that drives Ghana Water Limited towards operational and commercial excellence. So to get this, you have to leverage on the power of spatial technology and data to one, expand the impact of shared management information and critical thinking. Then the second one is to improve business processes, systems, which will help us to make informed decisions. That is the organogram for my department. You can see where the GIS and then the GIS manager. So as at the head office, you have the manager, GIS and hydraulic network modeling. And across all our operational regions, we have regional GIS managers, and then there are other GIS officers also there with other engineers working with us. In the department, we have the information technology unit also there, and then we have research and innovation also there in our department. Now moving to my unit where my focus is, that's the GIS and hydraulic network modeling. As you can see on the screen, that gives you a picture of what it should be. Some areas that we focus on as a unit. So I'll be touching on. So since my brother Yirinchi did touch on the bathymetry, I'll only mention it. So we also undertake bathymetry, but in our case, we want to measure the silt that is in our dams. Because when you have these galamsey and then other activities, anthropogenic activities within the watershed, it brings in a lot of silt into the dam. If you don't get those silt out, very soon you don't have water in the dams to use for our waters, for our customers to have enough water to drink. Along the line, when we want to add networks into our system, we undertake what we call the environmental and social impact assessment. We bring in our UAVs, the drones, we fly it in there because the expert that is supposed to analyze that is one in the company. So we need to capture a lot of these data sets and then see if it has impact on the communities that we are going to lay the lines. Are we going to break some buildings that are there? Do we need to relocate some people, or there are some environmentally sensitive areas that will be impacted? So we then bring in the UAVs to have that done. Then when that is done, we design, and we need to then go in there. We move into the profile lines along those areas that we have the proposed lines coming in, so that we can then get the designs done. The pipes will then be laid, and when they are laid, we have the as-built maps also being done. When all of this is done and we're not brought in, that's in the past, then we need to come in and map the existing infrastructure so that we can have that come into our GIS database. Once we have that in our GIS database, then we would have enough data to move into what we call the hydraulic network modeling. We want to see how the system behaves with pressures. When water goes through the lines, you expect that you have some pressures in the lines so our customers to receive water. Once you have pressures in the lines, water is going, people will keep applying for service connection. So then in the line of getting the service connection, we need to get them also mapped into our database. So we have a new service connection mapping also feeding in there. And once you are producing water, adding more customers, the pipes along the line become, you'll be having bursts and leakages also coming in. So we need to get the locations of these bursts and leakages so that we can feed it into analytics and then be able to see the places that are weak, and along the line, bring in some form of technology to predict which areas will be breaking. When I mentioned from the production area, we do have the technology that we call the SCADA in some of the areas. There's some of the plants, that's supervisory control and data acquisition, so that we can be able to get data from there remotely be able to turn on and off our pumps, we need to have these volumes that are produced either hourly or even in a much granular way to feed into the models that we'll be using to see how the system behaves. So we do have that installed in a number of our production centers. Where we don't have the SCADA there, we have another technology that we call the telemetry. So this one, we are not able to control, turn on and off the pump or valves, but they only transmit the data to us for us to get the volumes treated or the pressures within the line. So that one, we call it the telemetry system. Then we also have the electronic billing platform, where we, after we read all your meters, it gets in there, we are able to send the bills for you to receive it either on your mobile phones and then make payment through all the various channels that we have. In these, we've integrated GIS, so they are location-based there, so that we can analyze them in case of anything, identify what is happening. So the customers, when you're not paying, you should be able to know which places they are not paying, they're receiving the bill they are not paying, so that we can deploy people there, navigate there, and then be able to deal with those who are not paying instead of visiting everybody everywhere. And then we also use that to also say that, yes, a number of the our managers, district managers, or those working under them are not really able to handle the customers in those sections that we call works and cycles. So the GIS and hydraulic network modeling, yes, our role there, one is to implement the standards, policies, procedures for data capture and management of the company's assets. We also develop, implement and maintain systems and various user interfaces for us to capture data, then control, integrate, and disseminate of spatial data and hydraulic network, because we deal with a lot of departments. We try to integrate into every department in the organization so that we influence how they use data, because they need the location primarily to do everything that they do. Then to provide input in the setup and maintenance of the spatial decision support system for the company through the integration of corporate-wide GIS. So we have various dashboards for various departments and various users, both within, and in some cases, we also serve the fire service. That's outside our environment. Then we maintain water distribution systems using through the spatial decision support systems. And then we work towards maintaining data quality and integrity. And through all of this, yes, we also need to schematize. So the whole network that we map, we may not need to bring everything into the model that we are doing. So you have to have a way of creating some form of a skeleton form of the network and then push it into the model. Then gradually be adding the other ones into it to have the model work as we expect it to be. Once we build that model, we want it to behave like real world. So we go down there and then we do calibration, where we pick real life data, feed it in there, and then run it so that we are checking to see that the model is very close to what we are expecting on the ground. Then we move into breaking our districts into smaller zones, which we call the district limited areas, so that we can deal with losses. So we send water, some cubic meters of water into a district. Let's say 1,000 cubic meters, we are able to sell 600. There will be a loss of 100. We need to target that and be able to deal with where the losses are. Then we simulate this hydraulic network model to see how the system behaves. Even if we want to add a network in some area, would it be able to take the pressures there? Looking at the number of people who will be consuming from that. And with all of this, we move into also then advice on the various rationing programs, because we know the numbers, we know the water, where it's going, and how we should send the water there. But we advise on operational performance of the distribution network as well. So you can see on the screen the map customers, some of the map customers that we see there. So I did indicate that we have the works and cycles. So within a district, we break it into smaller zones. That's what we call it, works and cycles. we assign our data readers to go and work in that area. And then you see and we also engage other organizations. So we have various partnerships that we deal with. One is with Tencent Avion, that is a Dutch organization that helps us develop some tools, for example, that fits into our new service connection. We have to also engage, have a partnership with Ghana Special Society, UNE, and Waterworks to train us in the use of the UAVs, because we need to adopt these technologies. What we don't have, we go out there to partner others to bring in. We move into partnership with the Geomatic Engineering Department recently, then with the Waterworks. As we had the UAVs flying, we needed to extract all the buildings across about 9 regions within a very short period of time. And we need to use machine learning to do this. So to do this very, very quickly, we have to get them to come in, develop it for us. We then use it to get our data in there to meet the timelines that we are having. And then we have to work also with the GMX and GTech to have the core station established across the whole country, because we need very high accuracy, RTP grade for all our data sets. We have some core stations, but it couldn't reach the whole country. So we partner them, and we have presence across the country. So we leverage on what we have to get them to reach across and also benefit. Then along the line, we also operationalize the data we collected into valve validation so that we know exactly what is happening to every valve location everywhere. So that is my team, and are doing bathymetric survey, as you can see on the screen. Then some of the UAV data that has been collected across the country that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Senator Michael Nwagbe. Thank you. I think it's the 10 of Senator Kingdom Gali.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Surveyor Kingdom Gali. I'm here to speak on shaping the future of institution, the role of technology in driving progress. I'm from Ghana Great Company, so the discussion will center around vehicle and power transmission. So the outline of my presentation is only the introduction, something about people. I mean, most people don't know much about people. They confuse us with Bible. So I'll give you a little bit of people, the role of technology in power transmission industry, case study on people, the benefits, the challenges and contributions, and our operations are all guided by regulations, policies, and requirements. So I would say Ghana is rapidly transforming the landscape of institutional processes. For institutions to remain relevant, you need to adapt to technological trends so that you become efficient and impactful in addressing contemporary challenges. Technology are catalysts and a tool for institutional progress, enhancing transparency, accessibility, and responsibility. It's no longer a mere tool for efficiency, but it's a driving force for innovation, transparency, inclusion, and sustainability. I'll delve into the area of having talked about RICO and its functions. So Rico is the sole electric transmission company in Ghana. This means that if you look at the power value chain, Rico sits between the IPPs and then the BRE or V-Power, that's the government-owned power generators. We sit between them and the distribution companies like ECB, big companies who leverage on huge powers to do their business. And Rico came out from BRE, and we are assemble of operational area department and engineering and statutory departments. And our main task is to manage the National Interconnected Transmission System, that's the NRTS. Rico operates 3 voltages. We have the 69 kV voltage, 161 kV voltage, and then the 330 kV voltage. So for these voltages, we have a corridor that this we operate for the 69 and 161. That's a corridor of 30 meters. That's approximately 100 feet. That is required for construction and operation. And then the 330 has a 40-meter right of way. That's the same corridor, approximately 232 feet. That people pass needed for its operations. In additionally, Rico operates fiber optics. I know this is not common to many people because Rico in management's own wisdom has realized that we have, if you are familiar with our transmission infrastructure, you realize that there is a very thin line on top of all our transmission infrastructure. They are optical ground wires that prevent electrical strikes when there is a thunderstorm or rains. So it prevents strikes on the conductor to cause any damage to our equipment. And in that wisdom, we decided that we can use these wires and run fiber optics through them to telcos so that they can operate at places that is so difficult to build their infrastructure to. So we operate the fiber optics as well. I will touch on some of the functions that we both undertakes. So we do economic dispatch and transmission of electric for wholesale suppliers, that's the generators I mentioned. Really mentioned these generators to ECG network and the mines, including industries who require heavy or big goods to do their operations. Provide fair and non-discriminatory transmission services to all power market participants. Acquire and manage assets, facilities, and systems required to transmit electric energy. Provide metering and bearing services to all customers. Carry out transmission system planning and implement necessary investments to provide the capacity to rely, transmit energy, electric energy, and manage the wholesale power. So I will take you through the activities that let me start by saying that we have a land management department where I sit as well. And then for the survey or the geomatic engineers in Rico, these are some of the functions that we undertake to help contribute to the value chain of Rico's operation. So I will jump a bit because from this, I would want us to appreciate something that Rico does a lot before we proceed to undertake any development. When you see this map here, these are existing infrastructures and proposed ones. So before we embark on any activity, we ensure that our system planners with the geomatic engineers would prepare this map So this 5 to 10 year plan that we prepare, and this guides our investments or expansions. So this is the master plan of people that guides any undertaking that we carry across. So let's go back. So when this is done, and with the master planners and then the engineering department, they decide on which of these infrastructure or these proposed endeavors are necessary to be carried out. We first carry these activities. One, we go through the pre-investment phase. That is going to the ground. First, we do a list of things by selecting a close to what we expect route that this infrastructure will be developed. Then we subject it to feasibility studies, and then from these feasibility studies, we're able to realize what are the potential compensation related issues that will come up. We're able to also know the reasons that this transmission line will traverse some of the communities. We'll be able to come out with the line use and line covers of these areas from our desktop phone. Because when doing this, we deploy Google Earth, which is an open source app that we use to help in our determination of the route. And when we are done, we conduct ground truthing, be able to ascertain some of the selected areas that these lines are going to pass to be certain of what we are doing. In addition to that, we carry out ASIA, that's the environmental and social impact. We look to identify potential sensitive areas, cultural heritages, land use, land cover, forestry areas, and things, most especially the biodiversity areas. We, as much as possible, will try as much as possible to avoid them, if not, when we find ways to mitigate any impacts that will come on this thing. From this information, engineers is able to, based on the geospatial information gathered, to build a cost estimate for the project, having in mind the compensations, the type of towers that will be required, the land use, land cover areas, the waterlogged areas. This will inform the which tower foundation needs to be put there. So all these will be analyzed and be cost and will help us get a cost estimate for the project. And when these are satisfied and management approve of these, we carry out, then we find a contractor or either we could carry out this plan. We go ahead and do the detailed survey of the line routes. This is to gather information, topographic information, and also properties within the line route. So in the area of the properties, our facilities are overhead cables, and we try as much as possible to capture everything, whether on ground or in space. So we carry out these activities using drones, using GPS and RTK to aid us do this. Then we use total station or laser measures to determine overhead cables that can pose danger or need to be relocated. So something like ECG lines that we come across, them, we need to determine their height, and it will inform what the designer will do in relation to the design of the lines. And when this is done, we conduct the RAP or the PR, that's perfect impact assessment, to be able to determine the actual properties in terms of farms, land structures within the corridor. I made mention earlier that we occupy 30-meter corridor on the 161 and 69, and then a 40 meters. So you realize that we take a whole stretch of land, and we need to, anyone we need that stretch which will be affected in this area. That's for farms, lands, and structures. We need to map them out gather information. And in doing this, we deploy this drone to be able to help us have visibility of the place. And then we go to the ground with the aid of GPS and then survey apps on our phone, like survey 1, 2, 3, connected to ArcGIS, be able to map these properties within the stretch and when we're able to gather this information, we conduct a lot of analysis on them on ArcGIS, be able to help us know how much compensation need to pay to who, where are we paying the compensation, what is the compensation sum that individual need to pay. If there will be the need to relocate, we carry out these activities to help us determine the path for which we want to proceed. We talked about the transmission system planning that gives us what you have seen. So I will also touch on in doing that, we receive from the survey data, we're able to design, the designer is able to base on this design on this data. It's very key. Because when you mix anything in the course of these designs, I remember one of our projects, we have been able to gather enough information for a designer. So we ended up citing some of these pillars in the water areas that we wouldn't normally have done. So when the survey data is erroneous or is not captured well enough, these are some of the challenges. So it's very critical to the designer and whatever information is transferred to him. So on this, we also assist in the area of the construction of the transmission line infrastructure, supervise contractors who are tasked to carry out these activities. With the use of our drones, we ensure that the contracts or the specifications in the contract are being adhered to. So monitoring are done extensively on our infrastructure. We don't let it do, or we don't need to the contractor to do anything I want to do. And we ensure that these things are done and done right. We also, after doing all this, we also go back and using the drone, we're able to capture all these assets. These are the assets. These are critical to us because sometimes in the course of the project, we realize that there will be a challenge where we travel the route to not be a park or a project affected person will decide not to allow us to go that route due to maybe not sufficient, not content with the compensations I'm giving. So what we do is that if it becomes so critical or any other reason cause us to divert, which we didn't see earlier, then this information from the husband will help us reroute the port infrastructure so that we can have it as a database that we can leverage on it to do future expansions and any other thing that the company wants to carry out. So with the project assessment and monitoring, let me just go and show you some of the things that we do. You can see these persons as they go about their activities. There are drones, the drone is up there monitoring what they are doing. When things are not done right, immediately their attention will be drawn to it. If you see our towers or our infrastructure, they are overhead and they are very high. We have towers as tall as 40 meters in the skies. So you wouldn't want somebody to go through this to get up there and mix anything. So as they do their works, we monitor and advise, expect on the ground advice on things that have to be done. Going back a bit. So in that regard to we do vegetation management as well. You know, the 40-meter corridor, 30-meter corridor to the specs in rural areas. Our projects, because they are very sensitive and very many people find it uncomfortable being close to our assets. Most of these things, as much as possible, we route it in rural areas and in the hinterland. So these areas if nothing is done there, over time you see grass growing, trees growing. And these things, when you leave them over time without controlling them, they can cause trips of your lines, which will cause nationwide blackouts and any other thing that you can think of. So we do vegetation management as well. And in doing that, we do pre, during, and post. So we go with the drone, scan the area, come back, award, inform the award of contracts, and then we go back. We do that, you identify places that you realize that if you are going with in our vegetation management, either we do the slashing, we do the bulldozing, or we do the chainsaw. So this will inform the decisions that will be carried by management in deploying these works. And then we have the right of protection and management. So similar in the cities, you realize that many people use our right of way to do a lot of activities, illegal activities. They will do organizers, we have
For us.
artisans and all manner of persons who do activities under our land. So if we end up having this infrastructure, so we ensure that these things are managed. Every 50 articles don't that is more as we for it. The images are shared. These are only or samples of the benefits that we have read over time in productivity, responsiveness, inform infrastructure development, integration with renewables, that's the solar and then the wind power, hazard identification, remote monitoring, real-time monitoring, and all these. With this, in all these activities, I wouldn't want to be later on. You can get the slides and go through and appreciate some of the things that we do. And I would like to touch on some of the challenges that I've seen over time using these things and in my industry or my institution. Change management, privacy and security, and ethical issues. So these are some of the things. So I believe that Scrum Gap needs to be training to help to do some of these Scrum Gaps. And with all these mentioned, all the activities we do are we run them with these are confined in these some of these laws and policies and requirements, ethical code of ethics from the Institute of Data Protection, Cyber, World Bank, and all these are some of the guys that assist us in our operation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lewis. Thank you very much. So, few round of questions, and then we to ask a question to also ask. So I think my first question will go to Samuel Ibuchi. In your delegation, you talk about safety and efficiency, and I'm very much interested in that. So my question is that, I mean, with new technology coming up, how is it impacting or shaping, safety and efficiency in our ports? If you look at the Takoradi port, the Tema port, how is it shaping safety and efficiency of service?
Right. Right. Thank you. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. We're looking at data gathering, and for safety of navigation, it's about you knowing your bottom of water very well, and knowing whatever shapes and forms that exist down there. Now with multi-beam, you are able to get high resolution data to the extent that you can model in 3D. You can simulate the movement of vessels and even up to the berths. So we are talking about the fact that now safety of navigation is very much assured with technology. Okay, and then at the end of the day, what are we looking at? We are looking at the fact that containers and let me say vessels will come in and they will not have any issues, to the extent that insurance issues will not come in, to the extent that the shipping lines will be happy. We are talking about turnover timing so that you can come to the port, get your goods released, you work carefully, and then within a short time, you are done and off from the port so that charges are not even going up. And then it comes to the point that all these things will reduce the cost of items on the market, because if we don't spend so much time in the port, it means that the shipping lines are not paying so much, which also means that there are no charges that will be too much for the shipping lines, for which they normally will transmit to the ordinary customer. So technology is helping us in trying to reduce costs at the long run.
Right. Thank you so much. I think I really like that, because usually surveyors we think that we are just data collectors. But once you begin to imagine that a data that you collect end up in reducing cost of operation, then it means that we are very much important in whatever we are doing. Sylvia Michael, you talk about using technology such as SCADA, telemetry, GIS, you said integrated GIS. So my question to you is, how does hydraulic modeling, being powered by GIS technology, improve service delivery, in this our urban water system? And also, even when you look at disaster prevention, how does this your GIS technology impact on that?
So that is having the distribution network or the water infrastructure that into a model so that I can see how the water is transported from the treatment plant to the customer. So I want to see how it behaves on the computer, because on the ground you may not see everything physically. So that is the technology that you are looking at. So I take the pipelines that I mapped, and then I put in the elevation data. Then I put in the demand, and I put in that this is the pressure from the place that the water is coming from. If it's being pumped, I put in that particular pressure, or what we will call head, and then you call it elevation or pressure. So I put in all of that. Then I simulate it. Then I see that my brother receive water at his hand. He is probably staying on top of a hill. So when I send the water, would it reach there? And if it doesn't reach there, what do I put in for the water to get there? So I might then need to put in a booster, a pump that would then increase the pressures for it to reach its end. So you do all of these from the computer. So I bring in everything I map, then I then simulate it for me to see that yes, this is what happens at its end. The pressures might be zero or negative at its end. Then I bring in an intervention on the computer. Then I go to the ground and I implement all of these interventions for us to make sure that he is happy. In the event that there is a disaster, which did happen once, that there was flooding that swept away some portion of our network. We needed to then deal with this within a very short period of time. We had a GIS database of what has been mapped. We traced where it was washed away, and the valves that were isolated quickly. So that gives us an idea that yes, we could then easily manage that area. There was another one that we piloted. So in some area that is frequently flooded, that will not get our meter readers to be able to go there and read the meter. We need a revenue as well, because we don't produce for free. So we need to read that even when it's flooded, because people may stay there or may have consumed before the flood happened. And we need to build them to get our revenue. So instead of going through the flats, we fly the drone because we have smart meters in all of those areas, which send the data through the telemetry way that we were speaking about. So just put the receiver, attach it to the drone, and as the drone flies over, we are able to get all of these meters read, and then we get it into the billing system, and then we are able to bill them. So we have designed some of these systems to come in when there is that disaster, so that it doesn't break our operations.
Thank you, Sylvia Michael. Sylvia Gali, you talked about planning. And my question to you is that how important is geospatial data in planning? Now the government is talking about the West Africa Powerful Ghana to Cote d'Ivoire project. And you said is the data the surveyors gather that form the basis for that management decision. So how important is that in your in planning?
Thank you. So with the area of planning, I made mention in my presentation that the geospatial information gathered by the surveyors or the geodetic engineers in my area help feed into the decisions of the planning engineers in my company. What it does is that it's able to help them to be able to plan on where the lines are going from the commencement stage to the termination end, which communities will be affected, what are the cultural sensitive areas that need to be looked at, what are the biodiversity areas that will be looked at, what are the costs, the engineering costs that will be considered in undertaking this endeavor. So it helps management to a very critical decision in embarking this project and see how it will be economically viable for the company. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sylvia Yonchi, you mentioned lead line, and then you said, then we have single beam. Today we have multi-beam. My question to you is that, what technologies do you believe will define the next 5 to 10 years in surveying related to your profession in the future? Because we see that it's just changing. Because we see moving from a lead line to single beam, now we are talking about multi-beam. In your experience or in your estimation?
Thank you very much. When we were in school, we only knew about lead line. Then when we came out of school, we heard of single beam. Now we have multi-beam. And if we look around the world and we look at the area of geospatial technology, well, I'm not sure anybody can predict what is happening. But of course, we're looking at UAVs, we're looking at unmanned vehicles that we don't need human beings to be there. We also call them on field vehicles. Okay. So at the end of the day, it's going to be remotely controlled thing that we have to do, acquiring data without the presence of human beings at the time. But now we can even talk of satellite bathymetry, that we use the satellite to do some kind of bathymetry. And then so many things are happening. We may not be using all of them here, but hydrography is there. And it's being used elsewhere. Some of the technologies, you only hear of them when they are leaving the news and they are expired. So to be sure of what we are doing, I believe we must be updated or update ourselves with what is the technology around the world. And I believe the next stage is going to be purely unmanned thing. We are not going to be there in present to take data. We will just send things by remote and then monitor them. As at now, we have technologies that we can even see the data that people are taking from the field. You'll be in your office and then your crew will be out there and you are seeing everything they are doing to the extent that you can tell them, look, turn around the last hour. go to this particular point. I see something and I believe you guys must have a second look at it. So all those technologies are around and then they are actually being intensified every time.
Thank you very much. Sophia Michael, I mean, talking about technologies, he said is in the future, it looks more like on man. It brings my mind to artificial. So AIs, machine learning, people even talk about blockchain. You deal in an area where you have to do a lot of prediction and modeling. How do you think this technology would impact on service delivery in your field?
It's another department. So, for example, I did mention what we have to do into partnership with the dramatic department here in UST to develop a form of AI machine learning model that can extract all the buildings out of all the UAV data we collect in 9 regions within a short period of time. Because we are working on a project as a climate action review project for EAD. The timelines are very tight, and we have to produce this data, analyze it, and get a report to them in less than a month. We've flown the drone. We can't ask our workers to digitize all these buildings within that period of time. So how do we get this done? And also be able to use it in future. So we have to speak to the dramatic engineering department. They are developing it. And we expect to be able to feed in all of these images, let it identify all the buildings and extract it so that it fits into our database for us to be able to then use it, analyze it, and utilize it for what we are envisaging to use. There are other areas that we also want to look at. For example, the spillage, the dam spillage that happens like almost an annual thing. We want to be able to predict this occurrence so that we minimize those people that will be impacted as much as possible. That is one area. We also want to see when we maintain our pumps. So we started structuring the data we are collecting from all of these pumping stations because what we are collecting at first cannot feed into what we want to do in future. So we started taking things like temperature of the pumps and vibrations of how the pumps sound. Because there are certain indicators that will tell you that a pump is going to bring down to load. So we want to get all of those indicators stored in the database. Then we put on top our machine learning model. That will then tell us that, oh, maintain this pump quickly. Otherwise, it fails and it will impact on this community that you are serving. So it tells you, yes, it is with us. And we are very late. If I will put it first, we should have moved like some years back.
All right, thank you very much. I think one last question, then we'll move to the questions on the page. Sylvia Gali, I remember about 10 years ago when me and you were doing some projects, almost like young surveyors. Today, we are sitting here talking about, drone, UAVs and all that. My question to you is that, what tech skills do you think young surveyors must prioritize in order to remain relevant in this profession?
Should lead on GIS. Something I've observed over my working life is that information is critical in every decision that institutions or management of institutions take. So, that helps us to get information and are also critical because these drones and GIS come with sorry. Okay. So leveraging on drones and its related apps brings about heavy data that we need to manage. So young surveyors should look at how to manage this data efficiently from the beginning of survey to the end, the final end of the result that we want to achieve, we should be able to be within the value chain or the workflow of the activities that we do, and should desire that we would get results from these that we get to be able to easily access them wherever it is and be able to manage them efficiently to champion activities that institution undertake. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I think we have some questions on the platform that I want to read. The first is this. Good to hear about the two tidal gauge. Hope the data is being carefully archived because in the near future, in a bid to establish the JOID for Ghana, we will need the historical data from the tidal gauge. I think that would be to use of Iranchi. Then there's another question. Yes. Okay, that's from Sylvia Jones of Oribud. Then there's another question from Sylvia Fred Abuaji Labi to Engineer Sylvia Iranchi. Do you apply drone technology in your seabed service? And then another question for Michael from Sylvia Jones of Oribud. In conducting the ESIA for projects, if there are EAPs, how do you deal with it in terms of compensation, resettlement, and reinstatement, etc.? And so Gamali to the Greek to Gali, how much corridor do you acquire for the 69 kV lines? Yes, how much corridor? And then another question to you from same Gamali. For the sake of safety, do you conduct deformation monitoring on your towers across the country? If yes, considering the numbers involved, how can the efficiency of this exercise be enhanced through technology? All right, so if we can take these ones and then, so, yes, Sylvia Michael.
So when we undertake the ECR, as environmental and social impact assessment, we identify areas probably where we may need to break and where there may need to be some compensation. As much as possible, we try to reroute the pipes to areas where we don't need to make compensations, so that doesn't affect the overall cost of the project. In the instance where we may need to break those places, yes, we break and we reinstate it back to its original state, because there could be frontages of people's shops that we need to break the concrete there and then pass the pipes. We would have to reinstate it back to that state. And we do it such that it doesn't affect them as much as possible. Sometimes you undertake transboring, so you try to pass it under their frontage, the concrete there, so that it doesn't affect their work so much. And in places that we did, we try to move their things that they did and then reinstate it whilst they work as much as possible, so that you don't disrupt whatever they do. While we need to make compensation, and we can't avoid it at all, another department handles that. They value it and then they deal with them. Because 3 hours, we deal with only the engineering bit, and then together with the project department. And then the other department that handles the compensation bit, then it triggers for them to deal with. But then our data fits into whatever they have to do. Because a drone image then gives them a very good data for them to use. And this tells us that yes, our data that we are collecting, we are training a lot of people now to use that data set. The GIS data, the drone image. Because it's not just us now flying the drone or doing the GIS data. It brings in the question of encroachment into our image, which we try to manage as much as possible. So,
All right, thank you, Michael. So
Yeah, let me handle the tidal issue, the tide gauge issue first. The two tidal gauges are working. Apart from the fact that we had a small issue with the service provider who is now
And I'm sure by next month we'll have it up again. I only want to suggest that if there are institutions who are interested, then we should be keeping the data together. Let's share the link so that everybody can download. We are going to download data, keep it as much as we can, but then I don't think it stops anybody from also downloading from the link that we will share, so that should there be any issue with one particular storage system, then we still have storage within the country that we can rely on. So I'm ready to share. I think I've shared the link several times. Yes, I'm ready to share the link with everybody who is ready to use. Actually, what is it? We just need to use the tidal gauges of whatever it is for education, for whatever it is. So it is not a secret. The links have been shared around, and whoever want to download can download. Apart from the fact that we are looking at a model that will help us to really maintain the tidal gauges. Well, it comes to a time that the maintenance becomes an issue. This is a digital one, and we have it. We have a feed to the global tidal gauge system, the GLOS. So managing it at times becomes a problem. We are managing as a port for now, but I want to believe if we have a model for maintaining it, as in people trying to pay something small for downloading data, it will go a long way to help us maintain that as a nation. So to that is my answer for that. I believe we can all store the data because it is online and we can all download to store as much as we want to. With the issue of the drone, using the drone, now we are not using the drone. In fact, it is something that we want to use. It is part of our budget for the year. And hopefully by the close of the year, we'll see whether it has been, we'll be able to acquire them. But I'm sure within the next few years, the issue of people going into a boat and then a crew on board will be a thing of the past. Everybody is going to that, and then we will have to go into that. We don't have a choice now. I think those are the two, unless there's another.
Yes. So thank you very much, Senator Gali.
I'll start from the last question. How do you manage how do you monitor the information of power towers? So Greek has an emphasis that the country are responsible for the operation and maintenance of the transmission lines. So specials and these infrastructures at least twice in a year. But with the introduction of the drone, with the introduction of the drone, other information now, store them, and then apply software that would that comparative analysis, what was captured in years back and now. And these assist in helping us monitor the deformation of our towers. I remember some time back in Abuaze, we had one of our transformers which had the foundation declining, like moving downwards. So then what was done was that an inspection was conducted. Information in the past, what we had, we used them and did other measurement to compare with what was done earlier. Then we realized that no, there is a dip or a drop in the height as compared to when it was constructed. So by this, we commissioned a contractor to redo the foundation to be able to aid this. So this is some of the things that we do, but with the drone, we do better. And with the 69 kV line, that is mainly operated in Volta region, we have a right of way of 30 meters. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Those in the house, is there any question? Okay, CPD chair.
Thank you. I want to find out from my brother from Greco. You know, as surveyors, a lot of us work right in the field. You have to take decisions. Unfortunately, your lines
we do not know where they start, whether you're, for example, the 169, whatever, whether the 30 meters starts from the middle, where it ends, you are not able to tell. Don't you think it would be appropriate for you to share that data for everybody to be aware that, I mean, even if the ordinary man in the street knows the extent of your lines, I mean, where your right of way is, it will be easier for people to not to encroach on your space. The other question is to my brother from Gapua. I want to know, these modern ships, don't they have cameras beneath where they can see what is happening on the so anytime you are going on, you take off your machines. But I'm trying to find out, we know that these machines are kept in space permanently, so that anytime, anywhere they are moving, you still be collecting data, or you still want them to be in that line that you spoke about. Thank you.
Thank you. So,
Thank you very much. So, she sharing our transmission line data. It is available when we write to Brico. Brico will make available the data to you. But then what we over the time we are doing is that we are engaging the assemblies, SPA and Lands Commission to be able to make these data available to them, so that they are the Lands Commission regulator of land, SPA with the planning and the zoning matters. So when they have this information and you want to conduct any search, you want to conduct any development or seeking for permits, they will use this information to guide you on what to do and what not to do. So we wouldn't want to share it to any person at all. But then if it's for the purpose of helping development, we'll make it available to you. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to answer my brother's question. The issue of the boat and then the motive being removed every now and then. At times there are advantages to that. You know, it's not everywhere that when you have the transducer fixed, okay, it's not everywhere that particular vessel can go. So when you need to survey in shallow waters, then you have a challenge. If you need to go to places that ideally you consider dangerous, there's a challenge. So when you have any vessel of opportunity, then you see which boat is appropriate for that particular, because the draft matters. Because if the boat has a bigger draft, I mean, the draft into the water is bigger than you want, then it means that you'll not be able to survey in some particular places with that particular vessel. So removing them and placing them on a vessel that is more appropriate for the service at times is important. Secondly, not leaving them on that particular vessel is because the pilots have a different routine. They go to meet the vessel on the seas, and the operations are such that if you don't take time, they will damage your motive before they come back. Because at times they will have to hit the vessel, the storms and the dynamics of the sea. You don't want to leave something that's sensitive to them, and then before they come back, maybe they have damaged it. Unfortunately, you may not even know it is damaged until you go on board to go and use it. And nobody will even know they damaged it, because it is just a routine that they go through every time. So much as we are trying to get our own vessel, we are looking at the drafts and then the other ways of fixing it such that we can take advantage of all situations. I think that is how
okay. Please, I hear there's a hand up. If you can speak. Okay. Okay. Sylvia Chair, I hear your hand is up. If you can go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, so my question is to everyone. I think that I see that they are all well vexed in their areas of expertise. I'm wondering, how did you upgrade yourself? How do you constantly upgrade yourself? Is it a personal thing? Is it an organizational thing? With the technology, the modern technology, how do you do that? Is it that you go for conferences, look at the latest technology, make sure you are there, or your organization has a vision and then you have to get there? So I'm asking this for the younger ones growing up. How do we make sure that we are constantly abreast with technology? Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's to the panelists. So, Michael, let's start from you.
Thank you for the question. So from my end, as part of our budget and then work plan for the year, one, we have to develop the training program for the next year. Look for areas that we want to improve technologically and any other area that will help develop the staff, those within my department and even other departments across the organization. So along the line, for example, that's what got in. We analyzed the business processes across the organization, and we realized that we had been undertaking dredging without doing bathymetry survey. So we have to bring in the training on bathymetry survey for all the officers in my department, and then target some other key managers and directors to be able to accept and adopt that. Then we also identify other areas that we need to, because our assets, as you can see, are buried. We have the pipe fitters showing us that this is where the pipe passes. We have to look for technology that can scan and map what is buried. So we get that from CPDs, from personal development, because sometimes the CPDs we go to are not enough to give us those kinds of knowledge. We see problems on the ground, we have to go and then research and find those solutions and feed it in, because we need to solve the problem within the organization, else you lose the relevance as much as possible. So what the technology keeps growing very fast. And if you don't try to learn on your own and innovate, I find myself in my department, technology and innovation. So which pushes us, we must always be learning to innovate.
Yeah, so you're interested.
Our situation is similar to what Michael just mentioned. You need to do a budget that takes into considerations all that you want to do within the coming year. The training program that you have identified that it will help the department. That is one aspect of it. Secondly, because the shipping industry is an international one, you can't say that look, you are falling behind. You are forced to fall in line. So whether you are prepared or not, there are programs that at times you are invited to. There are new technologies that actually you are supposed to learn. New software that will enhance your project, you have to learn, because your data itself is fed into an international database, and you cannot afford to have data that is not acceptable to the international community. So by and large, you have no choice than to update yourself every time. Occasionally, you have to bring international trainers down so that they can train more people than just one single person going abroad. So you organize a training program. You have one or two people flown in, and then they come to do the training down here. At times, you have to involve other departments that you feel like they are also relevant in the training. At times, just for them to appreciate what you go through, appreciate something that you are. Most of the time, you are anticipating to send something to management, and it is an opportunity for them to appreciate what you are going through. Then you take the opportunity to invite some key management staff to be part of the training, so that whenever you send something, they understand you. So the international community has been helpful. We also do our own budget for training that you see what is necessary. Technology for me is something that you must also follow. So before we say we need this thing, that you have followed some technology and then you are proposing that we'll do this thing in the port. This software will be more helpful than what we have been using. Like I mentioned, we are looking at drones for. So how did you come by that? You have to read international newspapers and all those things put together. You just must update yourself into what you are going to demand from management in the form of a training program. So that is what I was saying.
All right, thank you very much.
So on the side of Greco, I think it's similar to what the two analysts just said. But the additional ones I would like to add to it is self-learning to something that I do most of the time. So when I identify any software that would help work delivery, like facilitate my work delivery, I chance on it, try and explore it and find it to help in my work. Additionally, my senior colleagues who are knowledge in some of these fields share their experiences with me. One other thing too I leverage on is I do I'm always open to experiment and failure and using that to guide what we will do going forward. Because if you have a team with you and you don't put them to experiment on some of these technologies that are present and you don't come out with solutions to work deliveries, you not get the best out of them. So this is what some of the things I also do. And with the GHIS CPDs and conferences, they also help us to also grow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I think time is fast spent and we want to wrap it up. We have learned today that technology is not just a tool for data collection, but like one of the panelists said, it's a tool for diversity, inclusion, and sustainability. And where we are going, it's important that we realize that we are not just surveyors, but we make ourselves very impactful in wherever we find ourselves. Thank you very much for joining us, and Chairman.
Thank you so much, Jacob Bratton. At this point, I know time is fast spent, but for the delay, we really meant to close at 5, but we still will not miss the opportunity. Know that our chairperson is here with us. We give her the opportunity to say 1 or 2 words, then we will take a break and go. Thank you. Madam Severa Tina Omega, please, if you are here, give us some few words so we go.
Okay, thank you very much, CPD committee. Thank you for this very important CPD that you organized. Today, we've learned a lot. We started with our health, which is one of the most important things for us. We need to exercise regularly, eat healthy, drink enough water, reduce alcohol. But the smoking, I heard, is we should stop completely. So, and then also have regular checkups. So let's take that all in. We've also learned a lot about the technology. We don't usually mix electricity and water, but today we've mixed electricity and water. We went to the electricity company, we went to the water company, and we went to Gridco. We've mixed them nicely, and we've learned that technology is helping us reduce cost. And then it's also helping us to make sure that everybody has water wherever we are. So we've learned a lot. We've learned that we should upgrade ourselves regularly through some of these CPDs and also personally. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming, and thank you, CPD committee, for this wonderful program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So I think that we are at the end of the program, and so we will take the GHIS anthem, after which we will take a prayer, and then away we will go. But look out for more CPDs in the coming months. Thank you. So, Mr. and Father, we thank you for making this a possibility for us to meet here this evening. We are grateful for the knowledge that you have shared with us through these colleagues of others. We pray that you, the mighty one, will continue to guide our go back home. We pray for those who are to that, Father, you continue to guide and bless all of them. This we ask you in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.